Thanks for joining us for this Virginia Cybersecurity Challenge workshop. We really appreciate everyone's time today. I'm Bill Wallace from US Ignite, and before introducing my colleagues, I'd like to turn the floor over to Executive Director of Commonwealth Cyber Initiative, Luis Da Silva. Luis, thanks for giving us an overview of the challenge and CCI.
Thank you very much, Bill, and thanks everyone for coming today. So we are very happy to partner with US Ignite for this challenge. That's part of our innovation mission in CCI. So I think all of you are familiar with CCI. It's an initiative of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we have three mission lines. One is research, the other is workforce development, and the other is innovation. And this particular challenge aligns a little bit with all three, I would say, but maybe more closely with innovation. And our area is basically the intersection between cybersecurity, autonomous systems, and intelligence. So US Ignite came up with the rules of this challenge with a lot of input from us, but around this general focus area of CCI and cybersecurity and autonomous systems and intelligence. We want as much participation from all 40 institutions that comprise CCI across the entire state of Virginia in this challenge. So I'm really glad to see you all here today. And the event is being recorded for those who cannot attend live, but can benefit from some of this information a little bit later. So I look forward to hearing from you and the team, Bill, and field any questions along with Kendall, who has been our main person in CCI working with US Ignite on the challenge.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Luis. Really appreciate your time today. I'm going to go ahead and share our screen. US Ignite is a nonprofit. Just a quick overview on us. We have been founded about 8-9 years ago. We are focused on accelerating smart community movement. We've also been running the $100 million US NSF Platforms for Advanced Wireless project. And we also lead a number of challenges, most recently with Facebook and Amazon Web Services. I'm joined today by Dr. Glenn Reichert, our CTO, board member, co-founder, and Sophie Jans, technical program manager. Our agenda is going to be quickly going through the challenge structure and approach. And then most of the time today, I think, will be used on Q&A. As Kendall mentioned up front, some of you may have joined afterwards, please put any of your questions in the chat. She will then read them to us when we get to the Q&A section. One of the things that I wanted to talk about in terms of an overview, you probably saw Governor Northam's video at the beginning of the call, and it really is important for the Commonwealth to continue to develop its cybersecurity expertise, its core competence. You know, if you saw from the call, Virginia has one of the highest proportions of technology workers of anywhere in the country. And this particular call is aimed at security around 5G networks. As you know, 5G networks are going to be the backbone, enabling IoT, transportation, automated infrastructure, all sorts of great benefits down the road. But security of these networks is essential and will touch nearly every aspect of people's lives and drive digital transformation, and hopefully jobs in the Commonwealth and startups as well. So by way of level setting, I wanted to very quickly cover the overview. And as Luis mentioned, a strong partnership between CCI and US Ignite, gated 4-phase challenge, ideation, prototype, product development, and then commercialization. We just started earlier this month, and we're moving on through December of 2022. The challenge overview, which is probably the area where we'll have most of the questions, is defined on this slide. And as you see, it's a cybersecurity prototype that we're seeking with relevant resources needed to deploy that prototype that leverage unique elements of emerging 5G technologies to provide secure operations, communications in ways not possible on previous generation networks. We are using an expansive definition of 5G. And by that, what we mean is, and we'll put this in the FAQ so you don't have to take detailed notes, but it's as you know, a new generation of wireless architecture that promises to deliver bandwidth up to 100 times or more faster than 5G, better reliability, lower latency, and connection to a higher density of devices. It's not a single technology, but advances in spectrum availability, unified standards, and disaggregated required equipment. It promises a wide range of benefits, as you know, including enhanced mobile broadband, enabling mission-critical services, and massive IoT capabilities. The hope is that this will be adopted through unified design. And I think when you move into a new generation like this, there are lots of vulnerabilities that we hope that you will help us figure out and address. And one of the reasons this is a relatively broad overview of the call is that we want to optimize, we want to encourage as much creativity as possible. And that's where you come in. I'll walk through this, and then, as I said, spend most of the time answering your questions. So we are here, we're at the ideation phase. Deadline for the papers, July 16th. The funding will occur soon thereafter on early August. Winners from that will move to a prototype phase with deadline of January 21st, with funding soon thereafter, product development between then and between August 1st and the early part of, later in 22, and then moving on to a commercialization phase. The goal here is to not only end up with transformative prototypes, but transformative prototypes that can be commercialized. The prizes, as you probably saw from the call, right now we're encouraging an unlimited number of teams to participate in the ideation phase. From that, we will select up to 15 teams, with each being awarded $10,000. Moving to the product development phase, 8 teams, upwards of $20,000 per team, and then commercialization, where we will have 3 teams selected to work with us, plus partners like ICAP. Josh Green has joined us today to work through the strategies, product development, and technical programs to make sure that we have commercialization. This is a very serious effort on the part of Governor Northam and the CCI to push the Commonwealth's advantage in cybersecurity. So it's not every program the governor gets on a video and takes the time to record it. This is important. So we really appreciate your active participation here. If I could go on to the submission requirements, just to review, roughly a 7-page proposal for phase 1, as outlined above in the proposal in the slide. And then there's budget information in the call with a format that's recommended from Virginia Tech and CCI. So just take a look at that. We expect these proposals to be in by 5 p.m. Friday, July 16th, via PDF. Proposals are sent in via email to proposals@cyberinitiative.org. As I said, one of the things under this proposed project and commercialization or industry adoption strategy, we're looking for some sense of metrics, how you will measure those benefits in those sections. You'll see that when we get to the proposal evaluation criteria. These are the criteria. We'll have a review committee set up, including representatives from CCI, US Ignite, and technical experts. We also have an advisory panel we've already set up for that purpose. We will be applying these criteria, or at least one of these criteria, hopefully more, demonstrated understanding of cybersecurity requirements, a potential for the prototype to deliver substantial innovation, commercialization strategy that's realistic, clear performance and evaluation metrics, as I mentioned, sufficient budget, and a strong track record, hopefully, from the PIs and teams involved, so that we have a pretty high likelihood of achieving our success. As you can see from the call, we are looking for PIs as designated by their home institutions, faculty and CCI's members. We are also encouraging students to participate. And the hope is that a PI might reach down to an interested student and involve that student on the team, or a student may reach up to the PI and say, I'm interested in this, how can I participate? And the goal here is to ensure that the team is not only successful in developing a prototype and then a product, but that there's a team in place to continue toward the commercialization process and make sure that there's an end result. It doesn't end as a great prototype or a great product. It ends as a commercialized product. Okay. Finally, in terms of expectations, as you saw from the call, there's an expectation that you will participate fully with CCI, help with publicity, publications, mentioning CCI, and then grant award letters will lay all this out. There are also some rules in the call, which I'd call your attention to, related to indirect costs disallowed, and also identified commitments on a one-to-one basis and what the criteria are for one-to-one commitments that meet the standards. Okay. We're gonna have a Q&A, and as I mentioned, Kendall and Sophie and Glenn and I will be following up with FAQs for any questions, for all the questions, but for any questions we cannot answer. And if we cannot answer, we need to caucus among ourselves. It's better, I think, that we kind of get together and then summarize them in an FAQ after the fact, which we'll call your attention to. Finally, if you have any outstanding questions after this that we maybe even forgot about to ask, challenges@us-ignite.org is a good place to go. So with that, let me stop sharing my screen. There we go. And what kind of questions are we getting? Questions, Kendall, or does the team have questions yet?
Just giving it a few minutes just to see if anybody might be typing at this time. So I'll let you know.
Sure. And Luis, did I cover the basis sufficiently? Anything I might have missed that you wanted to add?
Oh, I think you did a great job. Very fast. I think you covered all the bases. Some of the researchers here have submitted before to other CCI calls, so they recognize some of the process. This particular one is a little bit different because it's a multi-stage challenge, and that we haven't done before. So I'm really interested in seeing how that goes, right? So how teams advance from one stage to the next. I like that you emphasize that students are very welcome to participate, but they would participate through faculty, right? So we would still be making a grant to a faculty member, like any research grant from NSF or another agency. But it's very much welcomed if a student reaches out to you, has a brilliant idea, cybersecurity solution that has potential for commercialization, and you work with those students to set up the idea, to write the proposals, and so on. We would like to see that happening. And also, of course, if the idea just comes from the faculty member, that's also perfectly fine as well.
Great, thank you, Luis. Any questions about the challenge that we've laid out there and the definition we've used, the expansive definition we've used for 5G? We don't want you to feel restricted by perhaps an industry definition, or Verizon or AT&T. This is focused on the capabilities, functionality of a 5G architecture coming down the road.
We do have one question that just came in. This is for a student. Do they need to do anything with the grant before they can submit a proposal, such as paperwork?
Well, I think if a student is interested, the first step is to contact a PI who has expertise in the field within your institution, and join the team of that PI. And then I'm sure the PI would welcome that student's assistance in developing a proposal, but it needs to come from the principal investigator.
Yeah, so just to make sure that everyone understands, the proposal would really have to be reviewed by your sponsored programs personnel in your university or college. So it would have to come from a researcher who can be recognized as a PI, as a principal investigator, by your home institution, college or university in CCI. So the student wouldn't be able to submit a proposal by themselves. It would come through one of the researchers who are recognized as a PI, and we strongly recommend that you run the proposal through your OSP structure so that they review your budget and make sure that everything is according to the regulations of your institution.
Thanks, Luis. We had a follow-up question. Is it reasonable to identify student positions and not particular students at this point?
So if I understand the question, yeah, so for example, if you are a faculty member who wants to submit a proposal, and you anticipate that part of the funds would go to pay a student, a GRA or an undergraduate research position, you don't need to have the name of the student at this point. You'd have to identify that in your budget, but you don't need to identify a particular student. I hope I got the gist of the question, but if not, please feel free to ask again.
Sounded like, looks like it was the right answer to the right
Yeah.
question.
Looks like it was good. It was a good answer. And then is there a list of those PIs for the particular school somewhere, such as the CCI website?
So we have a list of PIs who have already engaged with CCI. That's on our website, at least list of people. But those are not, that's not restrictive. Essentially, any faculty member in any of the member institutions of CCI, there are 40 institutions that are part of CCI. If you are a faculty member or researcher in any of these institutions who can be recognized by that institution as a PI on an external grant, then you're eligible to submit. Even if you haven't engaged with CCI before. I would even say more, if you haven't engaged with CCI before, you're even particularly welcome because that broadens our reach to more researchers in the CCI network.
Yeah, and
there isn't a full list. There are some people who already appear in our website, and that's primarily because they have already engaged with us before.
Yeah, and I would suspect, Glenn, maybe add into this, if you go to your institution and look for professors in cybersecurity, wireless communications, what categories, Glenn, might you add in an institution to find the right PI?
Some of the obvious ones, but I think we're also interested in some of the unobvious ones. So for example, if you've got a cybersecurity initiative that involves the build infrastructure, maybe somebody from architecture would be appropriate. I'm not saying that that's what we're looking for. I'm just trying to enlarge your horizons to say there are many aspects of this technology that people tend not to take into account and would be excellent candidates for the Commonwealth Cybersecurity Initiative. And so think broadly about what the issues are in terms of the security itself, supply chain security, think about the needs of massive IoT, think about the needs for enhanced mobile communication, think about the fact that we've got lots of machines talking to one another as opposed to people talking to one another. All of those raise very interesting security questions. And I think that the field is wide open. Even a very large and well-funded cybersecurity initiative like this one will not begin to do much more than take off a few inches of the topsoil here.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn.
And let me just add a couple of thoughts to Glenn's. I think that's an excellent point about thinking about the non-obvious. So obviously, PIs in wireless networks and computer networks and so on, computer science would be clearly in the key demographic. But we have funded other work from other departments which are very relevant to this topic. And for example, we had recently a work in the experiential learning field that comes out of geography, looking at data poisoning of satellite imagery. So very relevant to cybersecurity, but from maybe not one of the most obvious departments. So, and similarly, we're funding some work in cyber biosecurity, for example, with researchers in agriculture. We are funding work in the role of cybersecurity in disinformation, misinformation, with some researchers in political science, in communication, in education, and so on. So, yeah, keep your mind open to within the scope of the call, thinking about all the possible areas in which innovation can occur. Now, our focus is again cybersecurity, autonomous systems, and intelligence. So it's really a technical focus, but often it involves some expertise from outside the core security area.
Yeah, that's a great point, Luis. I think one of the things Kendall will do, we have a presentation that kind of lays out a framework for 5G that does encompass devices across this whole spectrum, not just mobile phones, but maybe we put that in the FAQs so as to spur even more creativity on the students who want to reach for the right PIs. I'll send that along, Kendall. And one of the reasons, just to reiterate a point I made as I walked through the document, if you are students on this and you have other friends who you think would be appropriate, please mention this to them. Because as I said, the PIs often focus on the research and do a fantastic job, but the goal here is to encourage the PIs and their teams to move to commercialization. Sometimes this is a great opportunity for a student who has been on a team to be the one to carry it forward toward commercialization. So please help us promote this and talk it up and reach out to the right PI so you can join one of the teams.
Thanks, Bill. It looks like we have one more question that came in. Can the project idea be related to 6G networks?
Yes, I think that we're looking for advanced wireless solutions, and I wouldn't limit yourself based on a label. If you think it's something that's beyond 5G that will nevertheless be very important to the Commonwealth's cybersecurity of the future, we'd love to hear about it.
Does anybody have any more questions? If not, I'm just gonna throw the email back in. If you have any additional questions following this workshop, please reach out to challenges@us-ignite.org, or you can reach out to me directly and I can always send it over to the team. And I'll also put my email in there, whichever you all feel more comfortable with.
Great, thanks, Kendall. You know, if we have an extra minute or two, I might like to introduce Josh Green. Luis, you introduced us to Josh, who is partly funded by CCI. He runs a group called ICAP and is going to be helping us in the commercialization phase. Maybe Josh, spend a minute or two describing what you do, because I think you're going to be a valuable resource as we work through these stages.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So our program, ICAP, is run out of George Mason University in the Virginia SPDC. And our purpose is to help early stage technology and innovation driven startups from ideation through initial rounds of funding. So be that, validating their initial business model or helping them to secure pilots or early sales. We are here to help guide them through that process. We have a team of ICAP mentors who are all either successful entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who can help them as long as they are in need of assistance. And the program is no cost, it's confidential. And like I said, we'll stick with folks as long as they continue along. So we're here to assist.
Thank you, Josh. And I look forward to a great partnership here. And thanks, Luis, for connecting us.
Sorry, Bill, don't want to interrupt. We actually just got one more question.
Sure.
Is there a set number of persons on a team or a max number?
We did not define that, either a minimum or a maximum. We'll be looking for optimizing the budget. Just make sure. My experience, we work a lot with National Science Foundation, and I can say that the teams that have too many people end up not being able to focus as well as the teams that have a targeted number. But it's up to you, based on the budget available and what you hope to achieve.
Do you have an email and website for Josh? Josh, do you mind throwing that in the chat?
Will do.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
And I think what we'll do also, I did speed through the PowerPoint pretty fast. We'll attach a link to that in the FAQ. So if you ever want to have it, it's the same as the call. So there's nothing different there, except that it's a PowerPoint versus a Word doc. So, but we'll put that in there as well as this presentation I mentioned that defines the 5G landscape in hopes of instilling even more creativity.
Great.
Other
I don't see any more questions coming in, but we thank you so much, Bill, Glenn, Sophie, Josh, and Louise for coming together to put this workshop together for everybody. It was extremely helpful. And again, we'll make sure to put the FAQs and the slide presentation on our website along with this informational session.
Great. Thank you, Kendall. And again, as Kendall said, any questions we're open to any question. So fire off individual questions to the link, the website that Kendall mentioned, and please encourage your friends and professors to apply. We're looking for as many as possible because this is a very important initiative for the Commonwealth, as you can tell. Thanks, everybody.